The new computer builds, gaming PC builds of the month for June 2017. I'm doing these builds a little bit different this month, so a lot of you might be watching this post recording. I'm actually doing this live right now on Twitch, and so this is all going to be live, uninterrupted video of me going through the gaming PC builds of the month for June 2017. If you don't want to check me out on Twitch, where this is happening right now, and I don't know if we'll have much of an audience or anything today, but I thought I'd try it out. Just if you want to watch later on, or want to watch if I'm gaming ever so often, you can jump over to twitch.tv/monkeyevolved. That's usually where I'll Twitch. But getting started today for the gaming PC builds of the month for June 2017. This month we have 4 builds that we'll go through. We usually have the 3, which is the higher end one, the mid-range one, and kind of the entry level one. The high range one is a $1,300 or $1,500 build, and then the mid-range $1,000 build, and then the entry level is the $600 build, which are these are great price points and the right price points for say you want a game at 1080p at $600 there, or 1080p into 2K resolutions at $1,000, and then at the higher end is kind of going into, if you want to kind of go into the 4K resolution area if you want to, or really rock any game at 2K resolutions. And so that's kind of the gist of those 3 builds. But this month we've squeezed in an $800 AMD Ryzen build, which is a perfect budget range for those CPUs and how they perform in a price per cost versus the current Intel CPUs. Such as if you go from the $600 build and you want to upgrade into the i5s, you might be better off to transition into the AMD Ryzen build that we'll get into in a second. So let's get started. We're going to get started with the high-end build. So $1,500 or $1,300. Why those 2 budgets? The only thing that differs is the graphics card in this build. So if you do want to pump out as much performance as you want, do get the higher end graphics card. Otherwise, the $1,300 build will rock any game out there right now anyway, especially at the 2560 by 1440 resolution range. So don't worry about that. But if you do really want to dabble in the 4K, do get the higher end graphics card that we'll get to in a second. So in this build, we have the Intel i5 7600K processor for $234.99. This is a great processor, easily overclockable, so always highly recommended, especially for gaming. Cooler, it doesn't come with a cooler, so you need one. This is a really good air cooler, and it has been for years and years and years. The Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo for $28.99 this month. The motherboard that we have here is the same that we had last month, the ASRock Z270 Killer, $178.99. And then to pair with that, the real performance driver behind this build is either these 2. So these, like I said, the graphics card will determine whether it's a $1,500 build or a $1,300 build. Get the GTX 1080 if you want the higher end graphics card for $498.68, or get the GTX 1070 for $372.16. For RAM in this build, we have paired it with a Corsair Vengeance LPX 16GB kit. That's 2 8GB sticks of RAM for $115.99. And then the storage this month we have is a relatively new SSD. This is the SanDisk Ultra 2 500GB SSD, $184.95. The power supply powering this build is the EVGA Supernova G2 750-watt power supply for $109.99. And then finally, the case that encloses all of the hardware in this build is the Raid Max Alpha. This is a very cool case because it has all the cool colored RGB colors in it, and which is all the rage these days. And it's a very affordable case for $74.99, and it's a new case. So if you want to read more into that, go to raidmax.com, I believe it is. I'll check that out in a sec. But so yeah, that does it for this build. If we scroll down, we have some extras for this build if you have more to spend or if you want upgrades for the future. It does come with an i5 CPU, but you could bump it up to an Intel i7 7700K. Some games are taking advantage of that now. Otherwise, a good choice for if you're doing more than gaming, video work, graphics work, and so on. This might be better for you. $336.91. If you really, really, really want to spend money on a really high-end graphics card, and not so much as you used to on the old Titan X, but this kind of replaces the Titan X for a much cheaper cost. The EVGA GeForce GTX 1080 Ti is a great graphics card for $699.99. For if you want a better cooling experience, you can go with a liquid CPU cooler, such as this Corsair Hydro Series H100i V2 for $104.99, Or if you want a faster storage solution versus the SSD, you can go with a PCIe SSD. This is a 512 gigabyte version of the Plextor M8PE for $214.99. All right, moving on to the mid-range build, or the previously coined mid-range build, which is the $1,000 build. This build also uses the Intel i5 7600K CPU, $234.39. Sorry, and sorry, just before we get into this, this build is for those that you can max any game out there at 1080p, most likely right now with this build. And it's also you can play at higher settings at 2K resolutions. So keep that in mind. This is probably a really good build. A really good go-to build for experienced builders or new builders alike. So this is, I would say, one of the more popular build options right now. So the cooler as well, it's Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo, $28.99. The motherboard for this one is the MSI Pro Series Z270 that you see here, Z270 SLI Plus, $132.49. Graphics card for this build is a newly released card, and I want to say it is newly released, but it's about 2 months old now. When it was officially released, $259 for an AMD RX 580. I put this little note here, check for availability, because it is sold out in a lot of places right now. So you don't have to go with this power color one that I feature here. I would just search for RX 580, 8GB card, and see if you can find one out there right now. They should be coming out more so now. I wrote this article up a few days ago, so things would have changed, or storage at most stores would have changed by now. So RAM, we have Ballistic Sport LT 8GB kit, $59.99. That's 2 4GB sticks. For storage, we have an SK Hynix 250GB SSD, $94.98. The power supply for this one is an EVGA Supernova 650 G1, $79.99. And another new Raid Max case is the Raid Max Delta gaming case. In this case, we see the featured orange one. Also comes in black and blue, your choice. It's a very affordable budget case, but I love it. It comes with one fan, and you can pack it out with, I think, up to 7, so if you need more cooling in the future. This build does come out to a total of $951, so well under $1,000 right now, so it's very well priced. Moving on to some of the upgrade solutions for this build. Should you want those or have more to spend, bump up that SSD to a 500GB SanDisk Ultra 2 if you need more storage space. Faster graphics card, GTX 1070. This power supply here is an EVGA Supernova 650 P2. That's a platinum rated 650 watt power supply. Platinum meaning it is more efficient, so it uses its energy more efficiently. So you can get that if that's a concern to you, $99.99. And then for an alternative cooling solution, you can go with a liquid CPU cooler such as this Corsair Hydro Series H80i V2 Extreme. And now moving on to the new build for this month, AMD Ryzen build. This is an $800 build. So this is in between the $600 i3 build that you'll see in a second, and then the $1,000 i5 7600K build. This is where these builds, I think, lie in terms of gamer budgets and PC build budgets. So starting off, we have the AMD Ryzen 5 1500X CPU, which is $189.09. It's not the best Ryzen one out there, but it is, I guess the starter CPU. If you want to get, if you want to bump that up, and you do have a little more than that $800, or let's say $757 to spend on your build, you can, bump that up to I would suggest the Ryzen 1600. Which is one of the greater bang for your bucks. You can go with the 1600X as well, up to you. But the next one in line, I would say, is the Ryzen 1600 if you have a little more to spend and you want a little bit more performance while gaming. The motherboard for this one is the Gigabyte GA AB350 B350 motherboard for $111.99. Graphics card we have here is also a new graphics card. This one is the MSI RX 570. Do check for card availability. Search for other RX 570s, as they are hard to come by at this very second, but there should be more available as the month goes on. $174.99. 8 gigabytes of Ballistic Sport LT RAM, $59.99. 250 gigabyte SK Hynix SSD, $90.87. Power supply is EVGA Supernova 650 G1, $79.99. And then the case we have for this build is the Roswell This Rosewell Nautilus case for $49.99, and this build comes out well under $800 at $757 at the beginning of June 2017. Now, the final build, the kind of entry-level build, a build that will play games at high settings at 1080p. Yeah, starting off, we have the processor we have is this Intel i3-7100, $115.09. Motherboard msi Pro Series H270. And just a note, this CPU is not overclockable, so we do use H270 motherboards, $100.99. This one also uses the MSI RX 570 graphics card. Do check for availability, $174.99. Ballistic Sport LT RAM, 8GB kit, $59.99. SK Hynix SSD. This is the 120GB version. Might not be enough for everybody, but it is a good starting point here at $59.50. So if you do want to bump that up, I think it was $98, you can get the 250GB version. Power supply, Corsair CX Series CX 500 watt power supply, $59.98. And then finally, the PC case for this build is a Deep Cool Tesseract for $39.99. I think it also comes in blue as well, and the one featured here is the red lighting one. And this build comes out just over $600 at $610. And there are some build alternatives for this, for if you want to have upgrade ideas, such as you can bump the graphics card up to an RX 580, $259.99. Bump up the cooling if you want. I wouldn't highly recommend it, but if you do need it, $28.99. This Cooler Master Hyper 212. If you want to bump up the CPU to an Intel Core i5-7500, $199.99. Then again, I would suggest, instead of bumping up to this Intel Core i5, that you do consider an AMD Ryzen build, as the performance of that will be slightly better than going with and you can't overclock the 7500, so that's one reason why too. And the storage, if you want to, like I said, you can upgrade it to the 250GB version of the SK Hynix SSD for $90.87. So that does do it for these 4 builds this month. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a comment if you have any questions. I will link all the hardware in the video description. I'll be posting this on YouTube as well, so do look in the description for that. Otherwise, do go to noobcomputerbuild.com, and there's a quick link over to this month's article, as well as all previous articles, so do check that out. One thing to note at the bottom of this, there are no operating systems or peripherals included in these builds, so there is a peripherals article on the website as well if you go up here to gaming peripherals. And then what I mean by that is keyboards, monitors, or mice. And operating system, I do include them in the article here, so most likely you're going to go with Windows 10. You can get a flash drive, since there's no optical drive or DVD drive included in these builds, so $109.98. You can also install Windows 10 via an external hard drive of some sorts, up to you. It says Windows 8.1, but I mean Windows 10. And then also, there are free OSs out there, such as Ubuntu, which is free. You can try the Steam OS, build your own Steam Machine OS, which is no longer in beta, also free. So do check those out. So until next month, thanks for watching, and happy building.